Welcome to today's live session. My name is Kenneth. We're here with Digital Africa. Today we'll present to you about the European Space Agency WorldCereal data and how you can access some of these data sets in Digital Africa Sandbox. Digital Africa was set up 5 years ago, and it's powered by partnerships, working with partners across the continent, and the platform is powered by Amazon Web Services. The platform uses the Open Data Keep technology. Digital Africa mission is to empower countries across the continent to access the Earth observation data in analysis-ready data format to support the greater natural resource management of all these countries. Digital Africa has been working with partners to translate the data into insights, and these insights are very key to help countries address sustainable development goals, as well as their national development agendas and the African Union Agenda 2063. A Digital Africa platform is available in the maps, as well as the sandbox, as well also host a repository of these notebooks in the GitHub repository. Digital Africa is working with partners across the continent. In Nigeria, we have the African Regional Institute for Geospatial Science and Technology, AfriGIST. We also have the Agrimet Regional Center in Niger, covering the ECOWAS region. We have the Centre de Suivi Ecologie in Senegal. We have the Regional Center for Mapping for Resources for Development in Kenya, serving East and Southern Africa. And also we have the Observatory du Sahel et du Sahel in Tunisia. And we have the AfriGeo, all these working for the greater good of all these countries in the continent, providing access to all, leaving no one behind. Digital Africa has been able to develop continental services, starting with the water observation from space, and these services have been helping countries address their development agendas and also providing critical insights into the social, environmental, and economic change in the respective countries. From the water observation from space, we have the cloud-free mosaics GeoMAD, we have the coastline monitoring service, the cropland extend service, water body service, and fractional cover, and we continue to develop more services as fit for purpose. In today's topic of the European Space Agency serial data, it's good to ask ourselves about why this data is useful. And we can see that cereals are very essential to support the greater global food security, providing quite what is required for humans, as well as supporting the greater agriculture and food security. Some of the key cereals we have in Africa, especially maize, contributes to quite a big percentage of the cereal production. Looking at the different countries, as you can look at the crop production from Uganda, Ghana, Namibia, Nigeria. Thus, mapping cereal coverage is very essential to support the greater food security for the different countries, to support them in addressing the critical, production, as well as monitoring productivity from space, and also supporting governments as well as the small-scale farmers, providing the critical resource required to monitor their crop. Looking at the cereals in Africa, especially maize, the great production is noted in South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Egypt, Tanzania, Mali, Malawi, Ghana, Kenya, and Uganda, and also other countries that provide. The global coverage of the cereal data is very useful, and the European Space Agency has developed this critical data set, capturing the cropland extent and also providing extent on the maize using the Sentinel-1 and 2 at 10 meters. This is very key, as well the inclusion of Sentinel-1, which is cloud-free. Some of the resources that have been mapped, we have the annual crops, the classification of these crops in different types, especially now the maize, and looking at the status of whether they're under irrigation, and also looking at when they occur, either in summer or winter. The product is available for the whole continent, especially looking at sub-Saharan Africa. And those mapping of this critical resource across the agroecological zone is very useful so as to understand the planting times, harvesting, as well as where the production is high and also where possibly the government can work closely with the different communities and different actors, including the private sector, to improve the maize production. Digital Africa hosts this cereal data for Africa region, providing free access and open. Digital Africa has developed a notebook which will help us load the World Cereal dataset and compare it with the Digital Africa cropland extent map. Looking at the global coverage of the cereal data, it provides us with the different datasets that are being used, looking at the temporary crops, active cropland, the maize, which is active, and the main regions where they grow maize, and also looking at the areas where they have maize and irrigation, and also looking at winter cereals. This dataset is available at 10 meters. And looking at the coverage, we have the temporary crops, active cropland, the maize, and also the maize and irrigation, and the winter crops. And also we're able to use the agroecological zone mask to capture these areas and also identifying areas under irrigation and also the type of crop, whether it's a summer or winter crop. But most of these crops, as we can see, most part of sub-Sahara are grown in the summer. So this all serial data as accessing in the notebook, we're able to load the notebook in the data sets. We're able to inspect the data itself, and also we're able to load the data and plot the data itself and compare with the crop mask developed by Digital Africa. Some of the analysis parameters we have is to load the area of interest and also looking at the extent of the area. Here we provide an example of maize farming in the border of Mozambique and Malawi, and we're able to look at quite a big extent, even neighboring Lake Chiriwa. From this, we're able to access the WorldCereal data in the Africa, looking at the extent of the area and also looking at what has been classified as the crops, and we're able to load it respectively. Looking at the globe cereal coverage, we're able to get some preliminary results of areas which are active cropland, especially around Lake Chilawa in Malawi area and the border with Mozambique. And from this, we're able to see the distribution of the crop and also the area of our interest. From there, we can also see the active cropland, the maize, in most parts of Malawi, neighboring Mozambique. And we can also see early types of the year when this is very active, the farming. From that, we can be able to see the maize extent, the cropland, which is maize, and the one which is non-maize. Possibly other crops would have been grown in the other areas, as we have the system of mixed farming across most farms in the areas. Looking at irrigation, we have captured some areas around Malawi, around Chiliwa, Lake Chiliwa. We can see irrigated area of maize farms. And from this, we can be able to see the winter cereal here where we are able not to see any identified at this particular time. Also looking at other irrigated cereals, we could see other cereals, the data sets around Lake Chiliwa. And we end up with this combined map, which demonstrates the world cereal data in the Africa. We have the areas where we have active irrigated maize. We have active maize areas. We also have active irrigated, which was not so much. And also we have active non-maize areas, which will be other cereals. And also we have inactive cropland, which are areas who could be forest or other land use data. So the data we have, the WorldCereal can help monitor crop dynamics, detecting the seasonal changes, and also comparing with the agricultural patterns across each of these agroecological zones. And it's also very useful data set to support the creation of further data sets to identify more crop types, especially maize, and also helping to track productivity and inform food security. Reference is given to the European Space Agency dataset on introducing the WorldCereal data. Please let me show you this demonstration. When we go to the Digital Africa website, you can access the platform And directly to the sandbox, we have the folder of the datasets. And here we're able to run the WorldCereal data. And here we present the example of the region between Mozambique and Malawi, the one we were demonstrating, looking at the active agroeconomical zone, loading the data itself, and going directly to the loading the data sets and comparison our area of interest using the coordinates, or you could use a JSON or shapefile. And here we present the extents that we would have received from partners. And here we're looking at the area between Mozambique and Malawi, just south of Lake Chidiwa. And around this area, we identified quite some it's a grow, maize is grown, and also we have aspects of irrigated maize as well. So this also, chance by chance, we could look at another example where we could see there's no irrigation and possibly identify when the cropping is done, which will be at different seasons, either you're the north or south of the equator. So visualizing is very important because we are cross-referencing with the South Africa cropland extent, which is able to crop out the cropland areas from other land cover, which could be forest and other idle land. Identify the active cropland is very useful for determining where crop production has been done and also where more efforts have been put. So looking at the production, looking at the different times of the year, we're able to identify the crop extent, identified, looking at some of the zones, the regions around south of Lake Chiliwa, we're able to identify the active cropland. And from this, we're able to identify the maize, and we're able to see the extent of where the maize has been grown. And also we're able to visualize the extent. From the visualization, we can see the active crop area, which is under maize, and also inactive crop areas, which could be other land cover types or farms which have been left idle for over some time. Looking at the maize, the seasons will be different, especially early in the year, they will be growing maize and also harvesting. So the season is different season by season, as well as the area of interest. And this is here we could take advantage of the Digital Africa Crop Health tool, which will demonstrate for one of the regions in Ghana. So here we can see over the year the maize cropland, and mostly taking a couple of 4 or 5 months to harvest. And from this, we could identify the areas which will be irrigated. And from this, we're able to classify from the same data set with a high level of confidence. However, you might identify the areas under irrigation to be a little bit minimum, but around Lake Chidiwa and the mountain reserve. So this could be case by case. By the case of winter cropland, this data set seems that we're able to identify very minimum areas, but these are the irrigated areas that you've seen. And this is the winter cropland, where when you visualize, you'll see the minimum. So little minimum results returned because there's little winter. Irrigated main area, we can be able to see some of the results, and here we're able to see the extents around Lake Chiliwa, where there's irrigated maize as well as more information. The other side is more rain-fed agriculture, and from this we can create a combined map which shows you the classification of the active maize, active rain-fed, active irrigated, and also the others which are just inactive cropland. This is a quite useful tool for decision makers in agriculture and food security, and providing us with an understanding how the situation is for the bigger region that we have. So all this is also credit to the European Space Agency WorldCereal dataset, which is very useful. And also looking at other examples of what Digital Africa has in terms of applications of agriculture and food security, the crop health, and the vegetation animation. So also from this one, just to give us an example of another region, we looked for a region in East Africa, in Kenya, which is known to be a food basket region for maize in Trans Nzoia. And using the extents of the coordinates, we could see the area in Trans Nzoia covering Cherengani. And from this, just see the whole area. And also running the data set, we could see the active cropland area as identified in green. And the other data sets will be more of the forest area. And also we're able to see the active cropland identified. And here we have a lot of mixed cropping, but most of the farms grow maize. This is the food basket for Kenya. And we can be able to see the extent of the maize area at the farms. Let's see in green. And looking at the maize itself, we're able to visualize some of the results, primarily the plant area of the maize, and the other ones, they grow different crops as well. And from this, we could also see what is irrigated, partially some small areas, but most of the farming here is rain-fed, with 2 rainy seasons, early in the year and towards the end of the year. Towards winter crops, we'd see towards southeast of the area, especially in the July, August season. And also looking at the irrigated cereal, mostly you could see most of the area is rain-fed, but some partial areas with irrigation. So this was just a very good example for us to capture. Then also we could look at another example. This is an example of Sisala in northern Ghana, an example shared by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Here, most of the crops is maize, sorghum, millet, it's quite semi-arid north of Tamale. And also here we could see we're able to capture the cropland extent, which is very key. And you can see quite some cropping from the Digital Africa cropland extent. Then also identifying what is the active cropland. You can see some areas, some regions, small patterns areas. And also looking at active area, which is cropland, which would be seasonal because it's not all through the year. And also looking at the maize extent, cropping areas, and other times non-crop or non-maize, which means the farmers are practicing mixed farming. They're able to rotate the farms, and also irrigation minimal was captured. So in terms of winter crop, nothing much was captured at the same. Looking at irrigation, little was captured. Looking, most of it will be irrigated agriculture. So you could be able to see active rain-fed maize is captured, but the other crops will be the other crops grown in millet, sorghum for this particular region. Also, out of further details, we're able to look at the Digital Africa cropland health for the region in Ghana, Sisala. And from here, we were able to see the example shared by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Ghana. And here we're using Sentinel-2 to get the vegetation index. And from these, just capturing within an year or so, we can be able to see the patterns or within a parcel of land, just digitizing to see how the cropping was done and the peak times. You can be able to see for the vegetation index, the peaks, where the peaks we identify them early October harvesting, and the low peaks will be the planting season around just before April or around April towards the rainy season in July, August. So this just gives you an idea of the seasons and when they expect the rains in July, August period. However, sometimes the rains will come later in the year, but this is just from the anomalies or the data that has been captured. This is quite useful also for decision making to understand which parcels of land or where the farmers are actually growing the maize, the farms. From this, also we can look at the vegetation anomalies. So looking at the Digital Africa vegetation anomaly generated with the Sentinel-2 and Landsat combined for the same regions is in Ghana, northern Ghana. We're able to load the mask of the cropland and just looking at quite at a refined level, we're able to see the situation of the vegetation index, very good peaks towards October, September. And this can also be compared with the rainfall, with the individual animation and rainfall from the CHAPS data. And we're able to run and get quite some useful information about the rain towards July, October, shared, or sometimes in May. So this is also very good to understand the seasons. At least there will be rains in May or August, July, or September, October. So from this, we also welcome you to explore the Digital Africa Learning Platform. We have also courses on introduction to the platform, as well as with summary to access to the platform and the services. And here you're able to click on the learning and start with the Introduction to Sandbox course. And once you're there, you can be able to see the other courses, Discover New, over 18 courses in English and French. And also we have a course in agriculture and food security in support of the theme of today. And also special recognition to the GIS Day 2025. So introduction to this course, agriculture and food security, we have the topics covered: rainfall anomalies, vegetation, soil moisture, vegetation phenology, and also looking at a case study. And you can monitor your progress in the course and view your certificate. We also have other courses, including the Introduction to Sandbox, the platform, and other courses we developed with the other partners, such as the introduction to IMI. This is the IMI analysis of the WASA digital innovation. Also, the live recordings of these sessions. We put them every week. And please welcome to explore other tutorials that will help you, the user guide, and etc., etc. And also thanking you for your support this far as being our ambassadors and promoting the program. So special recognition to the GIS Day, where the topic is where spatial meets everything, and we need spatial data to make all informed decisions. Please connect with us through the weekly live sessions. The next session next week will be how to access the Sentinel-3. The session will be in French, and thereafter the other session will be in English. Recognition and acknowledgement of our partners, AMZ Trust and Australian government, and other partners in the continent and beyond. Thank you so much for joining today's live session. Please, let's unlock the promise of tomorrow together, so that we leave no one behind. Thank you so much, participants.